All right, good evening. We're going to call the 5 o'clock call the meeting to order. Roll call, please. Ms. Tissot.
Mr. Lee,
Present.
Dr. Moran, Mr. Munoz, Mr. Pereira,
Here.
Ms. Smith, Ms. Valadeo,
Here.
and I'm here.
We have quorum. We have a meeting, so pledge of allegiance. Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Approval of the agenda. Any changes? No changes. Need a motion, please?
Approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Got a motion by member Cattuso, seconded by member Valadeo to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it is carried. There's anybody here tonight that wishes to speak to any item that's on our agenda, you may do so by coming up before us and stating your name and letting us know what you would like to talk about. It can only pertain to our agenda item tonight, and all speakers will have 3 minutes with a maximum of 20 minutes per agenda item. Is there anybody here to speak on? We have 2 items, speak to the agenda or the calendar. Not the agenda, I mean, excuse me, the budget or the board policy change. The budget. Okay.
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Gabriela Salcido, residente de Los Baños, California. Antes que nada, quiero agradecerles por la oportunidad que nos brindan para venir y aprender de la manera en que ustedes detalladamente preparan, calendarizan y administran el presupuesto, para que sea optimizado y ejercido de la manera más adecuada, efectiva y eficiente posible. Nos dirigimos a ustedes como un grupo de padres y madres líderes de Los Baños, respaldados por el apoyo de aproximadamente 500 familias que han firmado a favor de nuestra causa. Compartimos una preocupación común y un objetivo claro: mejorar la calidad de las comidas que se ofrecen en nuestras escuelas, priorizando el bienestar y la salud de nuestros hijos. Desde hace más de 4 años, hemos trabajado en equipo como egresados de programas como PIQUE, PLTI y otros grupos que comparten un objetivo común: el bienestar de los niños y jóvenes de nuestra comunidad. Nos hemos dado la tarea de abogar por ellos, motivados por los comentarios de muchas familias que expresan que para algunos estudiantes las comidas escolares representan su principal sustento diario. Esto se debe a factores como la falta de solvencia económica, por lo que optan por alimentos baratos y carentes de nutrientes, o la necesidad de que ambos padres trabajen, dejando poco tiempo para preparar alimentos nutritivos en casa. Es por ello que la calidad de la alimentación proporcionada en las escuelas resulta fundamental, desde el inicio de su educación hasta su graduación de la preparatoria. Con este objetivo en mente, solicitamos de la manera más atenta contemplar estas situaciones y se unan a nosotros proyectando y tomando en cuenta esos detalles en la preparación de su próximo presupuesto. Además, solicitamos su gestión en la implementación de menús diseñados y revisados por expertos en nutrición dirigidos a estudiantes con necesidades específicas, como aquellos con alergias alimentarias, obesidad mórbida, diabetes infantil o condiciones de salud comprometida. También proponemos opciones adaptadas para jóvenes deportistas, así como comidas saludables y balanceadas con todos los estudiantes. Estamos convencidos de que una alimentación sana y balanceada no solo beneficiará la salud física y mental de nuestros hijos, sino que también contribuirá significativamente a mejorar su desempeño escolar y su calidad de vida general. Por estas razones, pedimos su apoyo y colaboración para trabajar juntos en beneficio de nuestras familias y sobre todo de nuestros estudiantes, contemplando para el próximo presupuesto que seguramente ustedes, con tanto esmero, concientización y dedicación, prepararán en beneficio de nuestros niños y jóvenes futuro de la nación. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other speakers tonight? All right, seeing no one come forward, we're going to go ahead with the agenda. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to go ahead with the agenda. On to the first interim budget report.
It is recommended that the board approve the first interim budget report, which positively certifies that the district can meet its financial obligations for the current year and the 2 subsequent years. Before I start my presentation, I want to acknowledge Liliana Flores, the 7th grader at Los Ganas Junior High, who did the artwork. If you could tell, it's a watercolor, which is very hard, and I think it's amazing.
It is
I
amazing.
wanted to take the time to have that kind of talent in 7th grade. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, she did.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It is wonderful.
I get so excited when I get to look at all the submissions that get sent to me. This fund really stood out. So what is the first interim report? The first interim is the initial financial report submitted by the district during the fiscal year covering the months July through October and providing a snapshot of the district's current financial position compared to the adopted budget. It projects the financial status for the remainder of the year. It is also an asset that helps with the district's fiscal solvency. Summary of the first interim budget. The district will be submitting the first interim as a positive certification. The district's current enrollment is 11,038. Our unduplicated pupil count has increased from 8718 to 9369. That's an increase of 651. I have to give props out to Dr. Ritchie and his staff. Karen Ellington and Lisa Souza were instrumental in getting all the back to school stuff online and digital for parents to do, so there was no more forms. And I think that really helped, and it showed with the increase that we had. Our average daily attendance is at 10,231. We're still hoping to get that up. COLA was 1.07. There was a 2% cost of living increase to the base salary schedule starting in January, ending in June of 2025. Well, not ending, but during that time frame. We received the community schools block grant of the $20.1 million. We also received an Individuals with Disability Act grant of $22,631, which is special ed based. We also received an Inclusive Early Education Expansion Program grant, which is also special ed, for $878,732. We also received an Environmental Protection Agency grant for green buses of $2.4 million, as well as one from San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution for green buses of $1.1 million. Our LCFF comparison, this is the comparison that shows you where we were at when we did adopted budget versus first interim. You can tell that although we did have a decrease in our ADA by 17, we ended up with 1.7 million in additional revenue based on that UPP count. So that shows you what difference those UPP numbers make with there. Our unrestricted expenditures for the general fund. We ended at 60 million for certificated salaries, 16.8 for classified, benefits of 39.1 million, books and supplies at 11.5, services at 16.4, capital outlay at 8.2, and outgoing transfers of indirects at 4.5, for a total of,
You got the like
How many are
2.8.
winning?
yeah, 2.8, sorry. And outgoing indirect cost of 4.5 for a total of 151.4 million, which is 77% is based on salary and benefit. Restricted expenditure. You'll notice the apple when you get to here, and I'll explain what that's about. And I talked about this during unaudited actuals. For our restricted revenue, which you know is the pots of money that we receive that have to be spent in specific categories in certain ways. All salaries for that for classified were 11.8 million, classified 9.4, benefits 18.0, books and supplies, you'll see 50.5 million, services 30.7 million, capital outlay 2.5, indirect cost 7.1 for a total of 130.2. So you'll say books and supplies and services, how are we spending $80 million? Keep in mind that 53.8 million of that was the carryover from last year that we talked about when we did unaudited action. So we don't leave that in fund balance, we have to budget it to make sure that we are transparent on everything. So yes, we're probably not going to spend 50 million in books and supplies and restricted, but whatever doesn't get spent falls into fund balance and it carries over for the next year. So those are really big increases. So I wanted to point out where you could see that unaudited actual carryover for the restricted was posted there. So what does our fund balance and ending look like? So remember, we started the beginning of the year balance at 75.2 million. 53 million of that was carryover in restricted funds. The rest of that was carried over in unrestricted. Our total revenue is projected at 226.2 million. Our expenditures 274.5, just 274.1, sorry. Deferred maintenance of 5 million. Our ending fund balance of 22.2 million. So what does that ending fund balance consist of? It consists of our revolving fund of 29,479, restricted money, which is LCAP carryover of a 5.9 million, payroll reserved of $328,000, our committed funds of 6 million, our lottery funds of 1.5, and our 3% required reserves of 8.2. One thing that I want to mention is you will notice two things with this. The 3% reserves, last time we talked, it was about 6 million. We got 27 million of extra through the community schools. General fund takes the hit for that 3%, even though that money is received in restricted funds. So that increase in that 3% is due to those funds that we received in those restricted categories. You will notice that our payroll reserves is quite low. Last time we talked, it was like 2 million. Now it's $328,000. We wonder why. Keep in mind that that raise that we gave last year hit this year, plus another 2% that happens in January. COLA was only 1.07. So this year kind of took last year's hit because of where it settled. We had to do the retro in August. So it hits this year's budget. So where did that come from? It came from your payroll reserves. That's why you see those payroll reserves so low. You may also look at this and say, okay, well, we're way deficit spending. That's the first thing everyone's going to say. We're getting 226, we're paying 274. Where's that coming from? Fund balance. Most districts don't have a good fund balance like we do. We've been careful with it. If we didn't have that fund balance, we would not be able to certify as positive, and then we would be in trouble. And keep in mind, when we're talking about this, we're talking strictly budget. What we think that we're going to spend, plus like in this budget, we budget the whole 20 million for community schools. We may only spend $1 million this year, but I have to be transparent by posting all of it in the budget. So that's where you're seeing what we budget versus when we closed out the end of the school year, we were not deficit spending, we were good. So that's just the difference. We have to budget it all now, but we may not spend it all. So this is the list of that $53 million that we talked about that was restricted carryover. And you'll see that in the 4s and 5s in the restricted PowerPoint sheet that I put. I put this again just so people realize where that huge amount of money is coming from. Okay. What were the major funding provisions that we received? this year. We had a COLA of 1.07. We had no cost of living increase for our preschool program. There could be possible deferrals in June, which is only 1 month to July. We're going to be okay because we have a nice fund balance. The governor also introduced the attendance recovery program that's going to start in July of 2025, which will allow students to make up 10 days of absences, which we're hoping that will help with our ADA. It is voluntary. We can't make them do it. They also eliminated the requirement for students to participate 3 consecutive days before we can get ADA for independent study. So that also helps our ADA. They also did the 100 million investment in the early education expansion plan. That's that money that I told you at the beginning, the 878 that we brought for special ed. So that's where we're seeing that money that we received for that. Okay, what were our new one-time fundings? The community schools block grant that we had been waiting for that. We finally got the award letter on that. The Individual with Disability Act, we received those funds of $22,000. The Inclusive Early Education Expansion Program, the $878,000 for special ed, and the 2 grants that we got for the green school, the green buses that we spoke about. The final recap. Los Banos is able to meet its financial obligations with the support of one-time federal funds, state funds, carryover, and COLA. The district will continue to monitor ADA, hoping to work on that recovery, the attendance recovery program with Ed Services. Pension contributions continue to increase. Special ed costs and transportation costs continue to increase every year. However, we are monitoring the budget on a daily basis to make sure we stay fiscally solvent. Any questions?
I just have a comment.
Sure.
And it's probably Mark, Dr. Marshall. Will we be able to, when there's a plan in, because I don't know if there's a plan in place yet on the attendance recovery program, can we? Yeah, I think that's, that would be interesting to find how we're going to try to recap some of that ADA, which is.
I think this is a great opportunity, so once we start moving on,
Yeah.
we'll definitely.
Yeah.
It is,
Thank
but
you.
it still will cost us because we'll have to put something in place.
It has to be
And
instructed by a
certificated.
certificated teacher, so it will cost.
Right, if you get-
Right, but we'll get it in
if you
ADA.
get- Yeah, but I think that I've done, in the prior years, I've done that, and I mean, what ends up happening is that you'll get more. I mean, you have to pay, obviously, you have to pay the teacher, a staff person.
But you
But
still,
the benefit
Still
is
the
you
positive
get-
outcome.
Yeah, it's positive.
It's 20 to 1 in the upper grades and 10 to 1 in the lower.
in the lower grades, yes.
Yeah, so 20 kids in the upper
Right.
grades.
Most districts have not seen their ADA get back to where it was prior to COVID.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this has been implemented to try to help,
Yeah.
because we're fortunate we don't have declining enrollment. Most districts do.
Yeah.
So we're fortunate in that.
It's a good opportunity to get the kids to come. It's a great opportunity.
Right, and I think having that at one of our meetings also gets the word out to parents, and so, yeah, it is. Thank you.
And supports the student's education.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Vicky?
It supports the education of the student.
Mhm.
I think it's, if everybody who has their book here, if you go to page 7, the general fund unrestricted page. It's not numbered, but page 6 is. I think it's important to realize or notice that in our revenues in unrestricted, they went up $1.7 million. But our ending balance is $2.6 million less than it was when we adopted our budget. It went from 18.9 to 16.2. So even though we got almost $2 million or $1.7 million, we're down 2.6 more than we had at the beginning of the year.
We're just getting that.
I'm sorry, here. Here.
This big, you're way past page
Oh.
16.
That's it, page 6.
No, but
Oh,
No.
but it's the.
The beginning. The beginning of the book, I'm sorry.
It's like,
I'm sorry. If you look at, total revenue at the top, you'll notice on the far right, it says 1,761,000. That's the difference between the adopted and our first interim, which is this one. And you go all the way to the bottom, our projected ending balance when we adopted the budget was 18.9, and first interim now our projected ending balance is 16.2, which is $2 million less than what it was when we started. So that, and if you look at the next page with the restricted funds, it's even
Yeah.
uglier.
Yeah.
We get 24 million, but we're $48 million in the hole more than we were before we started. So
what does that mean?
So that means we're spending a lot more money than we're getting. And then we got additional money, but when we got that additional money, we had additional expenses, which lowers our ending balance. So, and the third page over, the combined, which is restricted and unrestricted, we're kind of in the same boat. You'll notice total revenue was $25.9 million more than we had when we adopted the budget. But at the bottom, our projected ending balance was $50.7 million less than what it was when we adopted the budget.
Mhm.
So I think that's something that we need to keep watching, because that's not good.
and keep in mind, that's based on if we were to spend every single penny we have.
Right,
Right.
and there's always money that we don't, because,
You know, like with the 20 million, we budget the whole 20 million, but we know that that's a 5-year program. We're not going to spend that. But this is based on budget, not actual. So we hope that we budget 10 million and only spend 6 and have some carryover. We just never know.
so, yeah, so anyway, just want to let you guys check that out, because it is pretty scary.
This would look a lot worse if we didn't have a good fund balance.
Right, right.
We would be in trouble if we didn't.
right. But but most of our fund balance is restricted, which means it's not a lot of
Yeah.
extra money for,
Correct.
whatever we want,
Mhm.
so.
I got a question. So on the community school block grant, the $20,187,000, I don't know. Do we have that money? Did the state give us the check for that?
No, we just have the award letter. We don't physically have the money.
So will we get a check for $20 million, or how's that work?
I'm sure there's gonna be reporting requirements, and they're probably gonna reimburse us what we spent up till that. And we kind of get it scattered out through the years. We never really get it all right up front.
Okay, so as we spend money on that project, we get reimbursed.
Correct. Most of them are like that. We do quarterly reporting or annual reporting that they require, depending on the grant's requirements.
Because I was thinking if the state handed us $20 million,
No,
we could invest that short term to make some money. So.
yeah, that would be great if they did, but unfortunately
They
they
should
don't.
dip into it like that.
And a lot of these grants, you have to spend the money to get the money.
Right. Okay. On that,
And or have match in kind, whatever.
Correct.
depending
And a lot
whatever.
of times we have to pay up front for
Right.
something and then submit it to be reimbursed. So we're out the money until we get it back. But we definitely monitor to make sure we get every penny back.
Do you know, now that we're talking about community school, is there a match for us on that one at all? Or that's,
Not that I know.
I
of.
didn't think
It's
so.
it's very particular what it can be spent on though. I was very surprised when I read it, how things that
restricted. it
you
is.
cannot spend it on. They're very detailed about it.
has to be in a plan.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why they have you do a plan, so, yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
And if you have any
Yes.
questions, if you get home and you look at the book, call me or email me. I'm more than happy to help you in any way I can.
All right, we need a motion to approve the interim report.
I move we accept the first interim report.
We got a motion by member Katuso, seconded by member Smith to approve the interim report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Very good. A lot of work, Melanie. Thank you.
Yes.
And on to the consent calendar, which is our board policy update. And this just gets us in line with what Ed Code says about the calendar. We're gonna be approving the calendar, next week. And so this is the first reading, we'll have a second reading.
But this is the second.
I'm sorry, this is the second reading, sorry. Oh, yeah. Hey, I just had a root canal a couple hours ago. I'm lucky my tongue works, it's like, my brain isn't working, but
It
my
is
tongue.
quite impressive.
I know.
That's how we're now.
So anyway, that's, yeah, second reading, so that's, you already saw it, and nobody has any comments, and we can approve it as presented. So, motion please.
Um,
Second.
Got a motion by member Lee, seconded by, member Valadeo. Check here,
We have to do roll call.
yeah, so check here. And, so, motion and second, Tina, go ahead, roll call.
Ms. Katuso?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Moran? Mr. Munoz? Mr. Pereira?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Dalrymple?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. That, it is now 5:26. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See everybody next week.
Thank you. I was thinking,